Hello SLAPAFISH community, welcome back to another Tanks Constant video. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a tank review on the Type 80. So I'm going to start the tank review off, going from comparing the Type 80 to the recently released WZ-122, which has the 4-shot autoloader ATGMs, and also the T-72 Euro, which is the free premium heavy tank that's in the season pass right now. And yeah, so that's basically what we're going to be going over to. And I know the T-72 Euro is a heavy tank, but it's Cold War. Heavy tanks kind of play like medium tanks, so let's just go over it. As you can obviously see, the Type 80 just has the better DPM. Also, all 3 rounds. First round on all tanks is AP FSDS. Second round is the heat round. It's not very good in Cold War because of all the space armor. Third round is high explosive. Now, the penetration is definitely the best on the Type 80 at 432 millimeters. Definitely better than the Ural and the WZ-122. Now, the damage is actually higher on the 122 and the Ural, but barely enough on the 122. And the Ural and the 122 have the worst rate of fire, but a little bit WZ-122 is a little behind the Type 80. But the WZ-122 does make up for it for having the multi-weapon system of the 4-shot auto-loading ATGMs. So basically each ATGM does 850 damage. There's 4 ATGMs per clip. You get 8 ATGMs in total. 10-second inter-clip reload. 460 millimeters of penetration on the ATGMs. Reload for the magazine is 38 seconds. Potential damage for your ATGMs, 6,800. Potential damage clip is 3,400. And your max speed for your ATGMs is 120, which is on the slower side of the ATGMs. Now, that's a WZ-122. That's one of the unique features of the 122. It's a nice medium tank, but that is something that stands apart. That is what makes it worth the 11,000 gold. So let's keep going down the list. Now, as you can see, the Type 80 has a 105mm gun, which is actually the worst gun as a comparison, because higher your caliber, more armor plates you'll be able to overmatch. Like the Ural and the WZ-122, you either have a 125 or a 120 instead of a 105. Also, the shell velocity is so much better on the Ural and the WZ-122 on their standard rounds. Yeah, the Ural's 1,800, which is almost 400 meters faster than the Type 80s. But the Type 80 does make it up for its premium round and between the other two. Now, the ammo capacity is actually pretty good on the Type 80. It's 48 rounds, which gives it the highest potential damage in this comparison at 20,080. Now, the aim time, is 2.1 on the Type 80, which is not far off from, and the WZ-122 is 2, which is a little comparison here and there. Now, as you can definitely see, the Type 80 has the better, more accurate gun with the better aim time. Well, slightly worse aim time than the WZ-122, and the same as Ural, but greatly better accuracy at 0.31. Now, the turret rotation speed is 32 degrees, same thing as the Ural. Now, the gun depression is it's terrible on the WZ-122 and the Type 80 at 5 degrees gun depression. But the 6 on the Ural is not much better, but I would rather have 6 than 5 degrees of gun depression. Now, the gun elevation on the 72 Ural, it really does suck. Now, let's go to mobility. As you can see, the Type 80 wins the mobility department. Not easily, but barely. It's 10 kilometers faster than the 122, only 5 than the T-72 Ural. Also, you gotta remember, that is a heavy tank. It actually has a really nice reverse speed at 24.1, and all 3 of these tanks weigh about the same. The horsepower per ton is definitely better on the Type 80, but not that much better than the T-72 Ural heavy tank. keep this in mind. So far, the Type 80 has the more accurate gun and has the better DPM. It does have the better mobility, but not by much. Now, we just gotta look at the armor and see how the armor fares. Now, the armor, as you can see, the armor on the Type 80 is 120 at the front. On the WZ-122, it's 100 at the front. And you may be wondering, it's like, what is the 80 plus 45? Well, the Ural has 2 layers of armor. It has an 80mm layer of armor at the front of its hull, and a 45mm on top of it. So if you put those together, it's 125. Also, they act as space armor. So, yes, it's 125mm thickness, but it's space armor, so it's better than the Type 80, so that's why it's in green. Now, the 80/70 or the 80/20 on the side armor, it's the Ural basically has the better armor. Actually, the Ural has the better armor than the Type 80. So what does that mean about 80/20? Now, on the side armor, it's kind of weird on the Type 80. The Type 80, its side armor is split into 2 sections. You get the front half, the front of the part of the tank, front half of the tank, it's 80mm thick. Basically, you can side scrape around corners. Or can you? Because in the back half of the tank, it's 20mm thick, which is basically ruins the tank's chance of side scraping, especially if you see one of these tanks side scraping, aim farther back, and you will overmatch the side of the tank every single time. So yeah, 20mm of side armor in the back of the back part of the tank, not good. And yeah, the armor, as you can see, the T-72 Ural just has the better armor. Has almost the same mobility. You see where I'm going here, right? The turret armor. T-72 Ural, 280mm thick. I know it's a heavy tank, chill. But the Type 80 is like a mid-tier Arrow 2. There's like different. Yes, there's Arrow 1, 2, and 3, but most people like classify the arrows into smaller, like groups. You usually have the bottom tier of arrow, then you have the mid tier, then you have the higher tier. Now, you would put the T-72 Ural at the bottom tier of Arrow 2 because of the amount of hit points it has. Then you would put the Type 80 in the WZ-122 at the mid tier, considering the amount of hit points they have. As you can see, the Ural has the lowest amount of hit points here. Now, given them the advantage of being medium tanks, they do have better concealment, but the WZ-122 has 26%. 25%, 26%, they're definitely better than 9%. It's not as good light tanks, you're not going to be able to hide in plain sight, but definitely can hide much better than the T-72 Ural. Now, the fire chances on all 3 tanks, you're almost never going to get lit on fire, only if they hit you directly in your fuel tanks. But still, you have a 10-12% chance of that happening. Now, it's the silver bonus. You got a 55% silver bonus, which is nice. Then you got a 15% XP bonus, then a 10% 10% commander XP bonus. Now, the view range is 480 meters, definitely so much better than the T-72 Ural at 445. Remember, it's Cold War, so that 445 meters of view range at maximum does not exist. There is no limit to your view range in Cold War, unlike World War II. Now, the Type 80 at its base bundle is 11,000 gold, which the base bundle is not available right now because the tank just came out. Wait a couple weeks to get the base bundle if you really want. Also, the WZ-122 is the same price. And the T-72 Ural, 1,000 gold cheaper, and it's also the season pass at stage 100. Finish the season pass, you can get the T-72 Ural for free. So yeah, let's move on to the replay. Alright, so this is going to be my first match ever in the Type 80, and we're going to be spawning on Fred Vane. Now, as I said before, this tank's more about the mobility. This tank has the mobility and it has the accurate gun, so you can definitely get in those positions and just kind of snipe if you really wanted to. It also has a penetration, so you can fight those heavily armored tanks. And yeah, the Type 80 is good in its own right, but would you spin if you could only buy one tank out of the T-72 Euro, the WZ-122, or the Type 80? Which one would I rather go for? I wouldn't go for the Type 80. I would either go for the WZ-122 or the T-72 Euro. Now, the T-72 Euro is one of the first Era 2 premium tanks that ever came out in Cold War. WZ-122, it's like the T-72 Euro. Nothing special about the main gun. The special thing about the 122 is that 4-shot autoloader ATGM with the multi-weapon system. So that means you could switch from your main gun to your ATGMs like in seconds, which makes it really nice. You can go in, do 1,000 damage, and walk right out. Easy. With this tank, you can't do that. You can't. And yeah, how would I make this tank better? Give it a little bit more alpha. Give it more armor, more turret armor, and give it more gun depression. So it can be like a hold down tank. Maybe, it can go hold down. Maybe it will be able to go hold down against a T-4-11. Who knows? Give it that extra gun depression. Give it the extra armor. So, right now, I'm using the mobility of this tank. As you could definitely see, the gun depression got me shot right there, because I only have 5 degrees. And I don't have the best of armor. The T-72 Euro has better armor, but it's not the best. And number 2, it still gets ripped apart if not used correctly. But this one, also the T-72 Euro, armor is a lot more slanted. And why I keep mentioning that tank? Well, because that tank's free in the Season Pass, and you'll be seeing those everywhere, because it's free in the Season Pass, and everybody wants to play them. And also, that's probably, and if you're looking to buy the Type 80 or curious, you more than likely have the T-72 Euro. The T-72. And that's why I keep comparing it. And yes, I've ripped apart a T-72 just because of the amount of penetration this tank has. It has really nice penetration. It really does. It could rip apart like T-72s, T-72Bs, T-72As and T-72AVs. No problem. It's more of a sniping tank. You'll see me, like in this replay, have better luck in this tank just sniping. Because how accurate the gun is, how good the penetration is. And yeah. And you also gotta love the mobility. The mobility of this tank is actually really, really nice. I've been thinking, I was like, I should buff the mobility up. Just put the powertrain, the advanced powertrain, traction system in the powertrain on here and make it go like 70 or 72. I can also put the fuel on here and make it go like 78, which would be really, really nice. Having a tank that goes, having a Type 80 that goes like 80, that would be really fun. It would probably get me killed a lot faster than the tank, but it still would be fun. As you can see, the mobility of the tank is definitely helping me get back to the base really, really quickly. Because I was all the way in G6, and this is not a small map. This is one of the biggest maps in the game. And I definitely have the mobility to get back to the base. And I will be able to reset the base. And I definitely have the penetration to pin every single one of these tanks. That's one of the good things about this tank. But will I have the armor to stay there? Is this just going to be a one-way trip where I'm just going to run in, reset the base, and die because they just ripped my armor apart? Well, you're just going to figure that one out. And here's a 4211 on the side, and boop. Had to make sure I pinned that And also, I gotta mention that the driver of this tank gets knocked out a lot. I don't know what it is. It just gets knocked out a lot. And I really hate that, because I don't carry medkits. So, right now, the armor's failing. It is. I ain't bought nothing this game. Absolutely nothing. And I just went down. 4-11. As I said, mobility's really nice. It's more like a sniper than anything. And getting into that position and returning to the base and defending it. Once you get back to the base, you're more than likely not going to survive while defending it, because you just don't have the armor. You don't have the gun depression to use gun depression, because gun depression is a really nice thing, and you don't have the alpha to trade shots with people. It's a weird tank. Not everybody will like this. T-72, if you have the T-72 Euro, keep the T-72 Euro. Anyway, that's it for me. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. Also, remember to fish, because why would you not? And peace out. See ya.